Good morning from a cold Las Vegas morning. This is KJ coming from KJ Studios. We had a warm-up session. We will see if they shook off all the nervousness or not, but we have a special couple of guests in the studio. We're not going to go film on this one. We will do just strictly audio on this one, but the beauty is I have Vicky and Michele in here, two military spouses, and I think it's important to make sure that we cover the topics, not just from the active duty, guard, reserve, military, deployed guys' lenses, but what about the spouses, what they're going through at home, how they hold the reins, what they bring to the fight. So for our audience and listeners, ladies, you are on a hot mic. And it looks like Mr. Axel woke up. So listeners, we have another special guest, Mr. Axel, in the background. And the beauty of this is that this is what a spouse will go through when there is no help, right? So if crying babies in the background bother you, immerse yourself and embrace it, because this is what that spouse at home, and it's not just women, it's men too, are going through, taking care of the family and holding down the fort while trying to wash the dishes or do, the beauty thing or pick up that phone call. So anyways, ladies, I've talked enough. It's time to introduce you. You guys decide to go who goes first, but talk to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I guess I can go first. My name is Vicky. Well, I go by Vicky. I usually introduce myself as Victoria. It feels adult. So yeah, I've known Kevin James for a while. I'm a military brat. Both my mother and father were active duty, Air Force, and just growing up in the lifestyle, I kind of felt like, you know what? I need me a military man.
Okay.
And I really kind of made it a requirement. I was like, they need to be military. So met my husband through a best friend, actually. My best friend, she married military, and his best friend ended up being my husband. So that kind of went full circle and is amazing and fantastic. Let's see, I've been married almost 10 years. In June will be 10 years. So yeah.
Man, and you did so well. That's why we hear that little background noise in the background,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, 3 kids. I will say 3 boys. We were trying for a girl. Ended up being a boy. This is really funny. That's a story we could tell later.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess we should make sure Mr. Axel is introduced too. Okay.
He'll make himself known, I suppose.
Well, welcome.
I am Michele. I've been a military spouse for a little over 16 years now. My husband and I actually both grew up in a super small town in Ohio. We went to middle school, high school together, graduated together, actually got engaged the day after high school graduation.
High school sweethearts.
Yes, in a roundabout way. We spent our senior year dating, and I knew that military life was going to be for us. He had known at 16 that he was going to enlist, and so I knew that going into it that this was going to be, what our future looked like, and I was all on board. Coming from a small town, I was ready to get out and adventure and see the world, and we have really done well as far as traveling the country and getting out of the country a little bit, but not as much as I had hoped, but there's still time. We have been living in Las Vegas now for a little over 3 years.
Okay.
And really, really love it. It was an adjustment. We came from Alaska, so that was a huge reality check for us, as well as climate change.
In the summer.
Yeah.
Yes. But this isn't cold for what you're used to, right?
No, this is not. We are cold now, but
Okay.
we rolled in on August 1st, and it was 116, and I was like, we are going to fry living in the desert.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, so we were hot most of the first winter here, but since then, our blood has definitely changed, and I'm freezing this morning, but
Wow.
We've adjusted a lot, and we really enjoy, living here, and we're raising 2 kids, 13-year-old daughter, 10-year-old son. They are obviously everything to us, as, any mom would probably say, but really they are our life, and everything that we do is definitely for them.
Okay, man. So I guess we should give some context to this, because I was an active duty Air Force guy who deployed a lot. And, you know, it's like, man, like, how do I stir this hive's nest with you guys, right? Because honestly, this is their first podcast. We warmed up a little last night, guys, and there's so much goodness to this because there's different lenses from the active duty side, who's deployed downrange versus what you guys hold back, right? But I mean, it's like, you know, if I said, you know, like, and I get the luxury of seeing the nonverbal. Sorry, guys, but I'm like, if I looked at you and was like, come on, how hard you got it? You know, I'm downrange and I'm working 12-hour days to 16, and you know, I've got to make my own bed, you know, and my food is made for me, and I don't got to do dishes, and I got to go to the gym. You know, like, come on, how hard you got it? You know, like, how does that impact? Or all right, first of all, is that something you think really exists, or is said? And I know you might be speaking for the masses. But if you were welcomed with that kind of comment, you know, or we can talk about that at another time. I think what you guys do is tough. I don't think it's as appreciated as it should have been. Most folks know I was a readiness NCO for a little bit, so I did the Deployed Spouse Dinners, Military Spouse Appreciation Day. And I know at one time when there was a high ops tempo, I was asked, they were like, so Sergeant James, like, you know, what else do we need? You know, what do we need? And my answer was a very Kevin James answer. I was like, well, they need to stop deploying so much.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, they don't need another dinner. They don't need more prizes from the chaplain. I said, they need their spouses to be home, because when they come home, then it's time for them to go to work to let the people who held down the fort be able to take some leave. And then by the time that all wraps up, then that other team deploys out. Yes. So I don't know, speak on your experiences as far as that, because that's why we asked you here. This is the perspectives of the military spouse that maybe some of us guys need to learn, or any of the stories. I don't know. You both said, you know, high school sweetheart, you married in the Air Force, had to be an Air Force guy. Mm-hmm. So you may not have known what you were marrying into.
I had no idea.
While it was your requirement.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And we met because I worked with your mom.
Yes.
In the world of airman family readiness, right? Yes. And taking care of spouses. So my big question to you is you married into it knowing what to expect, but doesn't mean you have no reason to be not frustrated with what you deal with. And you married out of high school into the Air Force with your husband, but you both have similar perspectives.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So I'd be interested on that.
Well, I can go first. So my husband is phenomenal. He always says like, oh, I really appreciate what you do. And I'm like, okay, you know, I was like, we're just surviving here. But, you know, like, I was like, if you saw the house, you might think otherwise, you know, dishes are full, like sink full, laundry, maybe not done. What do the kids eat for dinner?
Cereal.
Maybe cereal. I was going to say cereal. So my husband, I'm actually a second wife. So he deployed, he married his high school sweetheart, which was like adorable, you know, and in their high school yearbook, they were actually the couple that was most likely to stay together forever, which I was like, oh man, you know, coming from a second wife, it's hard to kind of see that. Anyway, so he deployed, and I think he learned pretty quickly from his first marriage because she ended up cheating on him. And, you know, when he got back, he, you know, found out about the, you know, adultery and stuff like that. And then she left, went back home and everything like that. So I think he learned a lot of lessons from his first marriage when, you know, he met me. So I'm pretty lucky, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The, you know, the joke is, see, like, I remember when we talked, remember when we said last night?
Jody.
The joke, right? Like, you know. Look, I see. Remember I told you, yes. Right? Let's try it again. Right? We will cover that maybe one day down the road because we have a proposal we'll talk about later in the show. But yeah, the Jody. Yeah. Anyways.
Going into it, you know, completely blind, I really had no idea, you know, what I was getting myself into, so to say. All I knew was that, you know, I loved this man, and no matter what, like, we were going to spend our days together, growing up together, adventuring together, you know, exploring, just living out things that we didn't get to do in our little hometown. But with that being said, being from such a small hometown and having, you know, a close-knit family, like, I knew I wanted to keep that community strong and community going. Like, I needed to be surrounded by people, you know, no matter what the circumstances were. So even with deployments, unaccompanied tours, like I did my best to just get out there. Like I needed people. I needed to be around people all the time in one way or another. And even if things were falling apart at home, I swear we've had more emergency room visits than I care to discuss, but those always seem to happen, you know, when the spouse is gone. And I could have never done it, though, without the people that I surrounded myself with. And I think it's something you just have to be intentional about. Even if the sink is full of dishes and laundry is miles high, how are you doing, like, mentally, you know, emotionally kind of thing, rather than, you know, what's the physical, you know, aspect of the house look like, so to say. So that's always been just my outlook on it from day one. Like, yeah, the first month usually has been rough, and the last month seems to be the slowest. Yes. But
is this when they are back? They've deployed and come back, or what are you talking about?
Deployment. Like during, yeah, just during, just get out there. Like, you really have to just focus on, you know, your mental and emotional health during that time, and I think that's something you just learn to adjust to. And although it's rough, like, you know, I do think about what he's going through or what he's doing, and I can't imagine what it's like, you know, being deployed, but I do know that as long as we are healthy back home, then it has to be one less thing on their mind, you know, when they're gone. So
I think, you know, for me as a guy who had deployed before, that, you know, maybe a spouse may, and again, I think it's important for us to let the listeners know that this is from the lenses of our experiences. And if this blows up and grows, hopefully it will, like, and I hate using cancer, right? Because I fuck cancer. But you hope this spreads, and then you hear different perspectives, right? And so from the perspective of a man who has deployed before, I think we learn to turn our emotions off. And some military spouses at home can take that 1,000 different ways. And for us, because men like to protect their families, and we don't talk about our insecurities. And so a safety mechanism sometimes is to disconnect and go into this, like, just enough of what I can control, like the email or the phone call. And from your lens, it's like, whoa, why are you acting brand new, or why are you acting different, or, you know? And for me, that's sometimes a catalyst that can go down a very bad path, if not managed and controlled, based on, let's say, a history, right, of you know, where there was some adultery or fears. Because, you know, once you have that you know, it's this traumatic event. Once it's in you, you battle demons all the time with it, right? And so if there's spouses out there listening, I can just share from my experiences. I've seen the males who disconnected, not with intent to create insecurities for the spouse. It was their way to cope with the distance and not be able to protect their families. They go to bed at night wondering if there's going to be an intruder. And so that's one of the things that, you know, that's the contrast.
Yeah. And I would also like to add that, like, I was given advice once, you know, this was a military spouse. It was probably one of the military spouse dinners that I went to. And she advised us, you know, like, when you're talking to your significant other while they're, like, deployed and stuff, try not to just unload on them all your problems and everything that's going wrong, you know, which was surprising for me to hear. And I didn't listen once, you know, and I was just like, you know, I had like the worst day when I finally talked to my husband on the phone, and I was just kind of telling him like how my day went, and it was just like really bad. Right. You know, and I was kind of joking about it, trying to be like, oh, like the kids are crazy and this and that. And he was just like, are you okay? Like, do I really need to call somebody? Like, are you going to be okay? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just joking, you know, but to him, it was such a stress not being here and being able to help.
Like, well, men are fixers. Right. And when men can't fix, they get frustrated.
Right. So frustrated.
Right.
And it's natural for us to want to unload that, because there are safety nets, you know, and we need them to you know, be there for us, even if they're not physically there. But that's also where, like, the valuable community, you know, comes into play, that you need other spouses, you need other people in your lives that you can unleash all that to. And come to their rescue with coffee or
Right.
chocolate or wine, whatever it may be.
Right. I'm gonna tell you, like, so when I retired, my commander was phenomenal. And one of the things that she said, we have so many things that exist in our faces that it's so close we don't see it. But she used to say, when you come to me, tell me this is what support looks like. And I'd be like, ma'am, this is what support looks like. I'm just here to vent. I'm just here to vent. And it's the most amazing thing. She was a great commander and she cared about her people. And when you throw that out there, like, especially for us knucklehead guys, right? Hey, babe, this is what support looks like. I don't expect you to fix it. I know you can't, but,
that's huge.
who do you want me to go tell what's on my mind to? Because I will combust if it builds up.
Right.
And I know it's going to put you in a bad spot. And
Yeah.
that's why I like this podcast. You know what I mean? Because this is a huge disconnect I dealt with a lot of times. And, we could go down the road of how awesome or not awesome a Key Spouse program is. Is that based on inconsistency? Is it because it's too personality based? Is it based on who really wants to participate and help? Is it based on how we measure that unit versus this unit?
Right.
We could always go down the officer spouse versus enlisted spouse, because I've seen that too and I've heard the stories. But I want that perspective, and I like that dialogue that you just created because, when we live in this world of psychology and marriage, and we were talking about it last night, like, I have to be resilient just to figure out resilience now. Right. Because it's just jammed in your face so much. And I did an interview from a guy who was working on his PhD, and it was about vets, and is there enough help, right? And someone's going to steal my idea because I'm just a lazy ass. I said, I really wish there was an app like Yelp that talked about helping agencies and gave them ratings on who's really worth going to.
Oh, wow.
I said, because if you go to Vegas and say, well, based on all the advertising, right? So if you close your eyes and you imagine the Strip, okay, you see all that. What's the best show? What's the best steakhouse? Shit, I don't know. Yeah. Because it's all. So I said we have so much that now I don't know how to filter through who's really trying to help me, who's really trying to hurt me, and most of us just go back and suffer in silence.
Yeah.
And then it combusts on our loved ones, right? And so I appreciate you sharing that. You talked about the behaviors, right, and how we support each other. So, would you say when your spouses have deployed, how have you adapted? Like, how do you redefine connecting? Because if you read the 5 love languages, let's say let's say that words affirmation or what's the other one?
Physical touch.
Physical touch.
That one's got definitely a challenge.
Holy shit, right? So how do you, because to me, we've moved away from a world of writing letters. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right? Even though it's free in the AOR, it's like, why would I do that? I can just text you right now. Mm-hmm. Or I can FaceTime you. And how do you balance that? Have you ever found yourself in a place where you wished they had done something, but you didn't want to ask for it because you didn't want to upset them? Like, man, I really wish you would just write me a letter because, I'm used to physical touch, but I can't have physical touch. But what if I had a letter with cologne on it?
That's
right?
a good idea.
Have you?
We have some of that from the early days. I think we've just learned over the years, and I don't think it's something that I would expect any, new or young military spouse to fully understand until, they've been through it and they've walked that or even read the 5 love languages. We actually just did a study on it with our small group not too long ago, and a lot of the spouses hadn't read it before. And I do think it's a huge, just pivotal thing for any marriage, especially in military marriages, because you are separated a lot for long periods of time. So you have to learn not just what that number one, love language is, which is usually physical touch, but what the other things are and how you can act out on those with acts of service or words of affirmation or sending that letter or teddy bear with the cologne on it.
Because the key is know each other's love languages, but there are love languages that deployment separation can create contention. Like if yours is physical touch, but I learned love by someone buying me gifts. I'm expressing my love to you by buying you stuff online, and you're like, I don't want another pair of shoes.
Right.
Like I just want a freaking card from you, or you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
I just want a hug and stuff like that. And I think that's the never ending battle, you ladies. I tried to fight the fight, but it's like saying who makes the best chicken sandwich, or you know what's the best soda to drink. And I think it depends on you. And maybe how your mood is on Monday versus Wednesday.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think, you know, even if you're looking at love languages, I have found that I've done the 5 love languages 2 different times. I've did this study 2 times, and my love languages shifted and changed, and they evolved.
Right.
So that's something that to also just be aware of, you know, like this is something that could change from one deployment to another. So like, there's no like perfect, like, what am I, you know, like there's no perfect equation. There's no perfect formula.
We go through different seasons, and that's like whatever season of life we might be in is going to determine what love language we're going to react to the most.
Yes.
So how do you manage it?
Oh, we just
Like,
micromanage.
So how many nights have you spent crying alone when you wanted to reach out to your spouse, but you don't, because you don't want them to carry that burden? And vice versa, like men out there, I'll tell you, I've cried, you know what I mean? Like, I'll tell you my first space, which is not about deployment separation, but it was 17, homesick. I mean, I broke down crying at my first base. I didn't realize I'd be getting homesick because I went to the mailbox and I was like, man, no one loves me. No one misses me. Right. Well, obviously I stayed in 28 years later, so I'm a glutton for pain. Right. But I think that's something people can relate to, you know, I mean, like, and I just did it first. I admitted to it first, you know, I would be downrange. I'm like, dang, do I get a care package? While, you know, you got Mr. Newbie, who I'm like, well, aren't you a fucking nerd? You know what I mean? I'm like, you're getting like 15 care packages a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, like, oh, first time. Right? I'm on number 10 deployment. No one gives a shit no more. I mean, does it happen for you guys?
That's probably true. Yeah.
Like,
That's probably true. Yeah.
So let me ask you, have you shifted based on the number of deployments your spouses have been on? Do you think every time it's been redefined, like maybe you approached it the same way as last time, but then it's like,
or maybe like, I don't know. I think I have gotten a little more hardened, or I know what to expect or something like that. I'm just kind of like, okay, see you later, you know, I don't know. There is some times where I almost look forward to him being deployed. I get the opportunity to go hang out with friends and do things with the kids that I don't usually get to do, because when he's home,
right,
I do a lot of focusing on him, and, you know, we do dinner together and this and that. When he's deployed, guess what? Dinner, free for all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to go hook up with my friend who also has a deployed husband. We have fun. Like, so it is a chance to kind of like redefine what you even do, you know, like you don't want to get stuck doing like, this is what I normally do with my husband. So if he's gone, guess what? You get to do something totally different.
Okay.
It's a really good time to like redefine your relationship with your spouse as well. Like, I know anytime that we have been apart, you know, we've set goals for ourselves and for our marriage and the relationships we have with our kids. And it's just it's a growing process. Like, I think if you can shift that perspective and look at it more as a time of growth, then it's a lot, I don't want to say easier, because it's never easy, but there's a positive spin to it. If you can look at it, how you're going to grow in your relationships, your friendships, you know, yourself personally, then it definitely eases the pain a little bit more.
What does that look like? Like, I mean, is this like, you know, so I think you can all relate. It's like, we get tasked, the anxiety ramps up. It's like crap.
Yeah.
Like, does it look like you're writing it down? Are you planning it out? You know, because we always focus on like the budget, the plan. Is it during the school year? Like, does it conflict with your job? What does that look like for you when you say we're planning it out and redefining it? Like, you know, because I see a lot of people, they say it and think it. And then even from the spouse, the active duty and the spouse, their thoughts are like, oh, I thought you wanted Coke, but this time you were thinking Pepsi. And I wasn't aware of that. And so, like, I think for me, it was always like, hell yes, we're going to be able to pay off some bills or have some more money.
Yeah.
Or, you know, the spouse is at home, or the military member now, because technology is like, what's this Amazon charge being sent down range, you know? And for me, it was always supplements, right? Because we'll get into the bow chicka bow, right? When they come back all hot and sexy, hopefully, right? From spending months in the gym,
Right.
getting in shape. And then 2 months later, they're back to just being in a
Dad
normal
bod.
dad bod, right? Well, dad bod is hot now, right? And so, like, how does that look? Like, do you guys sit down at a table and you write it out and you chart it out? And do you have margins?
Yeah, I think
I'm pretty sure
definitely.
Michelle does. I was like, that's something I may have to take notes on. I don't.
I like to plan. I have numerous notebooks, lots of notes. I usually don't remember things unless I write it down, and that's just something I've always done. I love to organize things, so I do. I have to write things down. I have to organize my thoughts. My husband is still like paper and pen kind of guy too, where it comes to like the budget or the checkbook. Like we still have, an old school notebook where everything gets put in there, and the budget, twice a month gets put in there. So there are definitely times, when deployments come up, or even TDYs, anything. I think when you're apart, I do think it's really important to sit down and have that honest communication and write it down if that's the kind of person you are, or maybe you put it in your phone, or maybe you're good at remembering things so you don't have to do that. But for us, no, it has to be wrote down. We do make plans, set goals, and that's something that we've rolled on to our kids too. And I love that they can write out their thoughts, write out their plans. They've got, dry erase calendars in their room where they put things on it too, just because they see how that works for us.
And you
That's
brought
incredible, right?
You brought something up. We didn't even talk about the kids yet.
Oh, that's like hours.
Yeah,
Like the nights of crying. I miss dad.
That's definitely the hardest.
Or the holidays.
Yeah.
Like how have you managed, like how creative, because I remember I used to make the shirts or the pillowcases, and you get all these
daddy dolls.
the daddy
we did
dolls.
have a daddy doll.
Is that so? Have those worked?
They have.
I think so.
I think technology has come a long way from
Yeah.
the first time that we've been separated. We've been really blessed and have only had to spend one Christmas and one Thanksgiving apart, if I'm remembering correctly. Numerous birthdays. Seems he's always gone for birthdays, Valentine's Day, things like that. But just getting creative with those sentiment kind of things. We've opened up presents and saying happy birthday via Skype before. Taking lots of pictures. I think journaling it, helps.
Yeah.
It's never easy. That part with the kids is never easy. I don't know that it ever gets easier either. I mean, I've had 13 years now. Our daughter's 13 now. So we've had quite a long time of daddy missing, certain holidays and events, but it definitely doesn't get easier the older they get.
I was going to say, I think because mine are younger, and like when my husband would deploy, it didn't seem to I don't know, it was just kind of like, they're like, this is, I'm sure everybody goes through this. This is normal. This is totally their normal. And they were actually a little more surprised when daddy would come out of the phone. Like when he would come home and they're like, whoa, he's not in the phone. Are you kidding? Like, that's so weird. And they were almost like, it took a little while to actually come back from just being used to talking to them on the phone. That is actually something that maybe we should talk about. I was like, my kids definitely struggled with the reintegration part of deployment. And they were like, wait a minute, I'm so used to talking to them on the phone, and then I could say bye or whatever. It was crazy.
Well, so I wrote down some things. Remember I said I would, right? So this is a reflection of me, obviously, gentlemen who are listening, or ladies, right? Let's make sure we keep this. So let's talk about the Disney mom or dad, because you missed all that time.
Oh, I was like, what does that mean?
Well, so what it means is this is one of the things that I felt trapped to, because I was gone so much. I was always trying to make up the missed time, right? And usually when I was trying to make up the missed time, it could be perceived as creating behaviors that conflicted with the discipline standards that were established while I was gone, which can create contention between parents,
Right.
While you're trying to reintegrate. Reintegration is a huge thing out there, right? And I honestly I think we do the best we can, based on a reality of you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Did you guys ever, for a fact, I know that exists, but because you are the guests, did you ever experience that? Like, did your parenting change enough based on what you were dealing with? Because I also added one more thing out there. The spouse who's always needy.
Are we talking about the active duty member or the spouse?
Or I don't care, shit, both.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you my story. When I was renting this NCO and I worked over in Travis with you, and I was a very roughneck NCO, and I remember there was this one spouse, and it was daily. Like daily, the kid had no shoes on. And I remember one day I said this in front of my boss, and it was the first time they're like, you can't say that, Kevin. Like, you got to be a little more understanding, because they came in. I was like, what today? She needs to learn how to tie her shoes. Like, I mean, like, what is it today? Because in my mind, we're supposed to teach the ability to do things on your own. I mean, we're supposed to not just keep coddling you and coddling and coddling you. At some point in time, like, I'm supposed to teach,
fish, right?
I'm supposed to teach you how to fish, right? But every day it's something new. And I'm like, it blew my mind. And when they said that, I was like, okay, I may sound like a jerk, but I'm being honest. Like day one, it was give parents a break. The next day, it was the free oil change. The next day, it was like, I need something from the loan locker. And I was like, holy crap, this family's a mess. But I say that because I don't think we understand while we're deployed that not only are you trying to cope as a single parent and miss your loved one, you are also probably, if you're that great high-speed, low-drag spouse, looking out for your network of the spouses that are left behind who are not coping as well. Mm-hmm. Because you're trying to take care of another adult, right, too. That could lead to those days where you're frustrated, or could poison the waters a little bit with insecurity. So I was talking about that. Like, how have you experienced that? And if you hadn't, what did you do to mitigate that when you have Disney, mom or dad come home, right? And you've maybe changed a little bit, because we're all changing. You said you're redefining it every time, right? Yeah. But we're coming home like, I'm home, right? And you're like, yeah, I'm glad you're home. Now it's time for you to make dinner.
Yes. I was like, I want to pack my bags and leave. Thanks. Bye.
Right. Okay. Let's go down that path then. Let's go, because you're both laughing. If the audience can see your nonverbals, you're like, amen to that. Right. And then we're like, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah. Like, I was deployed.
Yeah.
Like, no, dude, your laundry was getting done for you. I know. I've seen IUD'd. You know what I mean? Your food was made for you. Like, and that used to frustrate me coming back, because I would be like, what's this big laundry list of the honey to-do list shit?
Oh, man.
Right? Oh, let's talk about it.
Yeah. I don't even know where to start, but I know that when my husband was deployed, like, simple things like changing light bulbs, I just kind of like let them blow out, and I lived in the dark.
Why didn't you change those light bulbs? Like, can you hear it? Like, really? You didn't change them yourself?
I was just like, I don't even care, right? You know, the batteries go out in the fire alarm thing. I don't even care. We'll listen to the beeping for a while, okay? Like, I don't care, right? The other things that need to get done, like, those are not on my priority list, you know? As far as parenting goes, I definitely turned into a more lenient parent. You know, I let my kid jump on the couch, whatever, dude, you know, like, whatever's going to let me take a shower, or I don't even know. Okay. Like, but I was a little more lenient. So I think when my husband came back home and he saw how lenient it has been, it was a little struggle then, you know, because he was like, why is he jumping on the couch? I was like, because it's not that big of a deal, really. I was like, you know, if he gets hurt, fine.
In contrast to what?
Well,
like
exactly.
Me taking a shower, right? Like, you have to provide that context to the guy coming home.
That's probably true. I probably
right?
didn't provide enough. Like, look, this is what, you know, this is what you have to give and take here. Okay. Yeah. I picked my battles. This was not a battle I was going to fight. You know, I was like, because I wanted this one, you know?
Yeah. We have our stories downrange. Like, when I was in IUD, I didn't eat because it was too damn hot to walk to the DFAC. I'd walk out like, nah, I'm good. I'm not that hungry. This is a true story. It is like you're next to the sun. But okay, I interrupted. Yeah. No, what do you got on? What are your thoughts on this?
I think the priorities do change. Like Victoria said, it just comes down to what is really important. Like, do I really need to change that light bulb or not? I'm trying to think of a specific story. I don't have one like off the top of my head, but I definitely would utilize like my friends' spouses if they were home to maybe help out with things. Okay. Or if we had family and like preparing to visit, I would just wait and sign it all off to, you know, someone who's coming to visit to help off doing, you know, I think I could, okay. I think I probably did change light bulbs, but there were definitely things that I didn't know how to do. And so okay. I would ask for help. Just take a little, you know, shot to your pride for a moment. Be like, listen, I just really need you to do this for me at the moment. with the way the parenting styles change, I mean, they definitely do change. You need to survive. And if that means letting them jump on the couch so you can shower, that's what you do.
Right.
I think when they do return and that, reintegration thing, I think everybody just needs like an abundant amount of grace for the first few weeks until, things kind of get back to normal, because we were in a season of, being a single parent and our kids only, looking to one parent, for that discipline or for that guidance, for that, emotional support. And they too have to, be able to adjust back to having two parents in the house and two parents telling them, what to do and how to behave. And that, I think, is equally as hard as learning how to be yourselves again, like as a married couple as well as a parenting couple, at the same token.
I will say maybe something that had helped is like as soon as my husband came back and he did feel like he was ready to discipline and stuff, I really tried to support what he was disciplining. I was like, okay, like, even though I did it different, I was like, okay, like, listen to daddy, I tried to make it look like we were still a united front. You're not going to split us up and make me turn against him, like I was like, this is, listen to daddy. Like,
well, how do you balance that? So, and this is what I mean, right? We always talk about pendulum swings, and that's what it is, right? And this is the thing though, is because it's not static. This is kinetic. You know that your husbands are going to deploy again. Mm-hmm. And how do you balance that with maintaining discipline, but not messing the kids' brains up again to where it's like, okay, so when I'm home alone, I mean, it's okay to jump on the couch.
Yeah. I mean, I'm completely honest and forefront with my kids, like I'm like, look, mommy's tired. Mommy's this or that. Okay. Mommy doesn't want to do X, Y, or Z. I'm like, look, and I'll be upfront. I was like, daddy doesn't like that though. Like I'll be sorry, but I was like, daddy has different standards. I might let it slide.
Oh, like this is like Game of Thrones, like almost like some house divided but united, huh?
Yeah, I think it goes both ways. There's things that I wouldn't prefer my kids to do, but it doesn't bother my husband as much, and vice versa. Right. Yeah. And I mean, the older the kids get, they know that. They know who to go and ask for certain things, or can I have this for a snack versus this? Like they know I'm going to say fruit or veggie first, whereas my husband might not.
Like go for it. But, go get that Pop-Tart. I don't care.
I wonder. So when I was a kid, so I was a military brat. My dad was in the Air Force 24 years. I would enjoy when he left because he would always bring presents home.
Always. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think that was the way I coped with it. I missed him. But I would agree. You literally guys had me envisioning like, Dad's gone. So like it's okay to do. And I wonder if that becomes, there's goodness, right, to anything, right? So you can teach your kids situational awareness.
Yeah.
Like, look,
how to balance.
Yeah. Mom's trying to survive. So look, while I'm in the shower, just don't hurt each other.
Yes.
Right. But to jump on the couch and then they know dad's home. Like, okay, I'm going to go back to here. Mm-hmm. That's a weird dynamic. I'm sure
it is different.
I would say that the key thing is to have spouses that love one another, respect one another. You follow that plan.
Yeah.
And know what to expect.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I experienced a lot of people, to include myself, the breakdowns were not coming with an open mind and understanding that I was going through shit to survive. You were going through stuff to survive. And maybe that's our relationship when we're apart. And that's what makes this unique, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody in the world doesn't have to do what you do as a spouse.
Yeah, no one plan is going to work for another person. Like what works for us might not work for Victoria's family or your family. Like you just have to be willing to adjust and adapt. And
you just opened up a can of worms. I told you yesterday. So the barracks lawyers, the know-it-all spouses who've been around forever, who try to say, this is what you need to do because it had worked for them. And I have seen where the ship totally sank because someone tried to influence someone and say, no, you need to just go do this, this, and this. Have you guys encountered spouses like that? Yeah. Oh, sure. Yes. Let's hear it.
Well, I mean, but I think it's a lesson learned. I mean, I ask for advice expecting, to get that. So it's my fault, like if I don't like their answer, but I think it's just how you learn to, take that all in. Like you have to be able to understand that, great, that worked for them. Maybe we could try it, implement it, see if it works for us. If not, let's try another way.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, definitely learned those lessons. I would say early on, but still learning them, to this day, even 16 years in, there's still so much I don't know about military life.
Yeah.
And I look forward to learning. I've had
Right.
a lot of awesome mentors along the way to teach me their ways, but just because it worked well for them, it may not, worked well for us too.
Okay. Well, you guys you'd brought a notebook, obviously, because you said she's the plant. You're like, I got to take notes from her. And you brought notes. So let's say you are that spouse with that side hustle, the side business. Do you put it on hold? How do you manage to do it as a single parent while the other parent's away? My wife has a side business, and we have a little one. And you would think we're deployed right now, like I'm in the garage. And how does that look when you have your own business or you have your own job now, and now husband deploys? Like, do you stop working? I'm not going to talk through this one because only you can answer it. And it was written down because what I hated to see is spouses who gave up a life to support. And it's like, man, well, you need to be able to feel like, like you have purpose, not just as a wife, and having a career. Yeah. And I think this comes with it. Like, well, hey, listen, you married into the military life, and, AFES is hiring at the shop at, so, go restock those snacks. That always blew my mind because every time I had PCS, the mindset was like, oh, well, you can go get a job at the BX. I'm like, my wife's an account executive. I mean, like, in the Air Force will tell you, like, don't care. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And so what does that look like to you? And if it doesn't, we can pivot away from the deployment piece. Because this is about military spouses, and it's not always deployment, right? Like, if you want to talk about the side hustle, the careers, the color streets, the R-bonds, the Sensies, man, there's like a million of them, right?
Yeah.
Right? If you want to talk about that.
I have like 2 under my belt.
Well, let's talk about that then. Let's talk about your guys' side hustles.
Well, I think initially, so when I first met my husband, I was working full-time at the Airmen and Family Readiness Center, and then we got orders to PCS to Georgia. So then I was like, okay, this might be my opportunity. And then, my son, my firstborn, Tucker, he was only like 6 months at the time. He turned 7 months when we moved to Georgia. So I thought like, oh, maybe I could just take this opportunity and try the stay home mom thing. I was like, cause it's already like a lot of work to try to get a job. Maybe I'll just try stay home. So I did. And I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed like, wow, it's just me and Tucker. Like, he's like my best buddy. We could do all kinds of things, go to the park, go on walks, things I wasn't able to do before when I had a job, like, let's go get breakfast in our PJs. Who cares? Mm-hmm. And then I signed up with Origami Owl. So I've been with Origami Owl since 2013. So it hasn't been easy. Like, I was like, but I didn't understand direct sales or anything like that. I just thought, man, I enjoy the jewelry. Like, why not? I'll give this a shot. Maybe it'll earn me a little extra money. And I did find that it is a struggle to do this, because you really have to it's not like you get an hourly wage for the amount of work that you put into it, so it really depends on what you're going to get out of it.
But do it.
Yeah. Like you do it, you try your best. You really have to put yourself out there, which is really difficult. So I'm PCS to Georgia, don't know anybody, like don't have any friends, don't have any family there. Starting from scratch. So I did use Origami Owl as like an opportunity to like meet people, people would like look at my necklaces anyway. They'd be like, oh my gosh, is that Origami Owl? And I'm like, yeah, it is. Oh, hey, like, and then like we would connect on that level, but like during deployment and stuff like that, I mean, that's the thing with direct sales. You could do as little or as much as you want with it anyway. It's flexible. I think that's why it's appealing to military spouses, because you can. And
you have a network.
Yeah.
It's a huge network.
And I had like a support person. So the person I signed up under was actually, she was back at Travis, spouse at Travis. Her husband was like a group commander. And anyway, so like I had another support person to help me with the business, also another military spouse. And that was cool. I don't know. It's been good. I mean, I've like been doing it 7 years now or whatever, so I've been managing it pretty well.
That is nice.
Yeah.
How about you, Michelle?
So I haven't really had like any legit side hustles, so to say. There was a short time where I was hosting freezer meal workshops for myself and friends, and we were coming together. We were prepping 10, 12, 15 meals, portioning them out, some sharing, some just taking them all back for their family, depending on the size. And that was huge. That was like, it was great to do. It really took off a lot better than I had ever anticipated it to.
Can we bring that back?
I know. It's great. I mean, I still do it like every now and then, depending on like what season we're going into. If it's sports, well, not right now, but extracurriculars, things like that. If they were getting ready to pick up, if we were going to be having like, medical surgeries or anything, like it was perfect. Like learning to figure out how to cook ahead, prep ahead, throw them in the freezer, but then like pull them back out. And even if my spouse was gone, we still did it. And actually it was like an even better time to do it because we don't feel like, being in the kitchen for hours, cooking, cleaning, and then, doing the homework and bedtime and everything else alone. So it worked really well that we could like set aside a day, like once a month or whatever, prep all these meals, swap meals, throw them in the freezer, and then, food is ready. So that was really like I shouldn't say only thing that I've done, but that would be like the side business thing that I kind of picked up on years ago. I haven't done it in a while with people, but it is a running joke in our house that I'm like a full-time unpaid volunteer. I've spent, I don't know, almost at least the last 10 or 12 years just throwing myself, I don't want to say into every volunteer opportunity, but that's really a passion of mine. Like it's a desire of mine to be involved with other spouses, be involved in my kids' school. I've always been room parent, room mom, PTO, whatever was out there. Like, sign me up. I want to do it.
You're like the yes spouse, which is something I do want to cover. If we talk about, how to make friends and stuff like that, you have to be a yes spouse. Like, say yes to more things. Like, seriously.
There's boundaries, but yes, be,
absolutely.
Be willing to step out. Be willing, to give your time, your energy, to that extent. Obviously, you can't give it all. You need to give it all at home. And then, like, what you have left over, give to your other spouses, give to your kids' teachers. I mean, there's endless opportunities to put yourself out there and find, like I referred to earlier, find that community, build that community, and you're not going to do it by saying no. But I would say my side hustle would be being, a volunteer, being a volunteer spouse, being willing to help out, with the squadron or school or, small group, get involved in your church, whatever it is that's something that I have tried not to let, fade in and out.
Yes.
Right.
Regardless of what my husband is. I mean, it's my purpose, and I think that's really important to maintain that purpose as a spouse.
Yeah. And I will say, when my husband's deployed, I would jump at all kinds of volunteer opportunities.
More,
Yes, I would absolutely jump in. Oh my gosh, I'm in church. Oh, I'm at the Airman's Attic. I'm, volunteering wherever,
Right.
the USO even, and then when he comes back, and I don't really want to stop my volunteer opportunities, and he's a little like, man, you're gone all the time. I'm like, sorry, but these are fun. You know, I don't know. It's hard to like, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. I know that there's this picture of this tall glass of water, me, that you took the picture of. So thank you. My business portrait. Remember, you came over and took the picture. And it was funny because that's not my like forte to like, I'm a Walmart t-shirt guy and all that. So when I put a suit on and stuff, hey, Axel, what's up? I got made fun of by my two older sons. They're like, oh, look how cute. You're trying to look like fancy. But, we were talking about side hustles and saying yes to the unknown, right? I think that's what you're saying. Say yes to the unknown, but make sure it aligns with your morals, your values, right? Obviously, like there's always some jerk out there like me, if it fits my agenda, to like, oh, really? Say yes to everything, huh? And then we can go down this path. Like, come on, bro, don't take it out of context. You know what I mean? But I would say a side hustle potential is, we talked about this, is you said yes to the unknown and you jumped on a podcast.
Yeah, I know. That's why I knew. I was like, oh, Michelle.
Michelle.
She was like the first person I thought. I was like, yes.
And so KJ Studios wants to throw a proposal out there, and I think that there is an audience for you too. And I think that, I talked about it last night. I was like, I think the military does a very, very good job. They do their very best, honestly. And it's a lot of it's triage, because you throw the programs out there and it's really up to each spouse to take advantage of it. Right. But I think there's an audience out there that you two ladies, if you wanted to come in here, lead your own podcast, and communicate to the audience, I want to invite you to that. I had thought about the name Behind the Stripes, the military spouse, but then I thought about it this morning and I didn't like Behind the Stripes.
No.
Because you have officer spouses.
Yes.
You have enlisted spouses.
Yes.
And I think we close it in. So I don't know, the unsung heroes, the military spouse, the foundation. I don't know. I want to come up with something, but I want to invite you to lead a podcast. I would hope at a minimal once every other week. And go forward with that, because I don't want you to say no to the unknown, and hopefully you have a whole new level of comfort. But I think there's gold in this. And I think there's probably there's a lot of spouses out there who would love to share, stalk, contribute. And I want to open that up to you guys if you're willing to. You can say yes or no, but that was the surprise I said earlier that we would talk about and announce. And it's important for me to segue into that, because you guys may or may not believe we're already approaching an hour.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And you were nervous about it.
For
right?
sure.
And there's no need to be nervous, right? I mean, there's no boogeyman in here. I'm going to be honest with you. In Halloween, we were doing something. I started hearing noises.
Oh, jeez.
And it was dark. And my kids were in here, and I think it was just the mode that, we plant stuff into. But I wanted to see if you wanted to do it. And then I wanted to see if you led your first show, you come up with the content. But there was one topic I would challenge you with, and it's going to be wearing the rank of your spouse.
It's a good one.
And I've heard lots and lots of conversations. I have been on the short end of the stick of a spouse who wore their husband's rank. And I think that's something that would be a good topic as far as just maybe 10% of it. But if you're willing to, the audience is listening now. What do you think?
I think it's a great opportunity. I was obviously very nervous for this morning, and talking it through with my husband. He made the comment, he's like, it's no different than what you're currently doing. It's just not your voice.
Yeah.
I mean, I do utilize, Facebook a lot, trying to, encourage, connect, build relationships with other spouses, maintain the relationships of the last 16 years. I mean, I have the most amazing friendships from, day one of stepping onto Beale Air Force Base. I still am connected with those spouses, and it's because they said yes to me, and that's like something I've always pledged to do. Like, I want to say yes to other spouses. I want to help them, find their place, find their purpose, and just, I don't even know, I don't want to say encourage them, because maybe what I'm saying or doing isn't encouraging, but at least give them an outlet to also have a voice. So whether it's through volunteering or becoming involved in a small group or volunteering at the Airman's Attic and stuff like Victoria has done, I mean, I think it's important to provide this opportunity for them, and even provide it outside of just the text. Like my husband had said, you're already doing it. Just use your voice now. Just stop hiding behind the keyboard. Use your voice and do something with it. So I say yes. I think it's awesome.
I love that. And I would expect nothing less from a Michigan Wolverine fan.
No way.
I'm just joking.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks, right?
Playing right now, and I'm missing it, but it's okay.
And I was talking about your husband.
Oh, okay. Him too. I'm talking about me.
Go husband. Thank you for supporting. And he's 100% correct. You find that when you say yes to the unknowns, if it's within your code and there's boundless opportunities that come from it, to include you never know if you didn't have a future as a vlogger, your own podcaster.
Yeah.
Never would have imagined saying
Right.
yes, but yeah.
So
you're
we
right.
have-
You're so right.
We have one yes.
I'm a yes.
I know. I promise you guys, we have already planted this seed.
Victoria's my motivator, so
I think we were at 98% yes last night when we went through a dry run, with the potential of how this felt. And I was actually pretty decent, right? Like,
Feels kind of natural.
I know.
Which is like, I didn't expect it to feel so natural.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm loving our dynamics.
oh, I know.
it will be, this is the shift. And we'll just say it on the air because it's important for the listeners to connect that things change when the maestro's not there. So the orchestra, when the maestro leaves, that while they can play, it may not be as organized or the tuning, right? So you guys will knock it out of the park. When one of you sits behind the roadcaster, then you're going to be like, spouse.
Hit record.
Oh crap, I didn't even hit, you know what I mean? And it'll be but use the sounds and
That's probably the hardest thing.
Oh, I
think
know.
That would probably, I was like, I don't even know.
We just keep you there.
it depends. You have a very organized partner,
She's super organized.
right?
Yeah.
And when you don't hit that at 30 seconds, she'll be like, because you can't say nothing, right? Well,
Right.
you could, it's your show, but you're 100% correct.
Just wait for the sound, guys. Wait for
I don't know how many military spouses are out there, but I'm going to guess it's got to be close to, if you're talking about active, guard, reserve, and you're talking about all branches now,
Yeah.
right? Includes Space Force, so hopefully it gets out to Space Station, wherever. That's my plug. I always like my buddy Jay Harris is a chief, I think, and he's in Space Force, and he never laughs at my jokes about Space Force. Jay, I miss you. But his wife is a spouse, and she does Color Street with Lynn.
Nice.
If you want to try to Color Street, you can meet my wife, talk to her. She enjoys it. Didn't you you hosted a?
I think I'm going to.
You're going to host one, right?
Yeah.
And you're hustling and you're busy too, right? I try to do my best to embarrass her and see if she'll share it, because I think life is really short. Mm-hmm. And I think that we don't live to its fullest as we should. We're spending more time trying to keep our head above water.
Right.
And I appreciate the fact that you guys are willing to take on something that may get to someone who is frustrated or just sitting in their house and they're having dark thoughts. Because I'm going to tell you, I posted something in one of my leader groups this morning, and it was me in the weight room. And I was actually like, man, I actually look good. But I set it up on purpose to look weird, right? So it looks like I'm benching, like I only have 10 pounds on each side. I took my mask off. And I set up a lot of stuff, and I put it out to my group, and I said, so observations, assumptions, perspectives, and perceptions, what's wrong? And through the thread, you're seeing different leaders chime in with nothing's wrong, self-care, where the hell's your mask, right? And none of them are wrong. Mm-hmm. But that's just the surface level. How do you know that, and those don't, I lift weights to cope with my PTSD, and I'm getting older and my body is not able to keep up no more. And on the inside, I'm dealing with something that is dark and ugly. Mm-hmm. And no spouse or no military member is immune to that. And I created this because I give a shit about people. I created this to give people a voice. And I am so proud to have been able to interview you guys. And I'm going to end it with this. If there were words of inspiration, besides the fact that you guys have decided to jump on and do your own show next, what would you leave your audience with? Like, what would you encourage them to say? What would you encourage them to do today? So we always end on that positive note, right? And you can talk about anything. You can talk about the 5 love languages. You can talk about this ain't easy. I may make it look easy, but it doesn't mean it's not hard. Babe, you better have the laundry folded when I get home. I mean, whatever it is you think you would want to say, the audience is listening.
Oh, goodness.
By the way, there's no cameras yet.
I like what you really shared, because I guess my piece of ending today is if just one spouse listens and they're feeling, alone or frustrated, I just want them to know they are not alone. That's okay. If
That's
they
right.
want to feel frustrated, if they want to feel, sad, they can feel lonely. But I just want them to know that they are not alone. We are all walking, and we have all walked in these shoes. So there's no reason that we can't do it together.
Yeah. I guess ditto. It's hard to add on top of that. I am excited to talk about things, it's funny how you don't think that your experiences have much value, but then you're like, well, actually, if somebody would have just told me this,
right,
maybe it would have changed something, or I would have been encouraged, or I would have learned a lesson sooner, or, I'm just hoping marriages get saved, or, people just get encouraged to embrace the military spouse life or whatever,
Yeah. I think the beauty of everything is, there's stories there, and there's so much depth to stories, right? Mm-hmm. And I hope in some way or somehow, we will all grow together. 'Cause Vicky, we were joking, right? I was like, who would have ever thought that maybe when we met years ago, the intent was for this?
right,
yeah,
right? My realtor was introduced to me by my former subordinate years before, but because, you know what I mean? And he's a good friend of mine. He's actually one of the person I did an interview with. I think the beauty of all this is the network, the connection. Don't give up, because you never know what the future lies ahead. What you think is your trajectory may not be it. Because less than a week ago, when someone got a text that says, "Hey, I want to offer an opportunity to you," I went off of it. If you get a big audience, right, and you guys may be like, "Here's the finger. We're rolling out with our own program," which is fine. But the intent is a group of people. I just met you last night, right? But a group of people who can do something together. And I've been using this saying a lot because So if you see this book right here. This is my Bible of leadership development stuff I've been to, right? And a very, very inspirational man to me, Dan Paletta. I went to his professional development. Are you bored or bold, right? But he talks about creating a community of care the same way we created a community of consumption. And I like the fact that this is a community of caring. And you're 100% right that you will find that the people are listening, and you're going to hit one day, just out of nowhere, right? Yeah. And I've been doing this for a little bit, and out of nowhere, all of a sudden it's like, boom, I have a new friend. I know you. I hope you do something badass with it. I hope you bring on great guests. You may never know who you've helped in a foreign country.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm totally honored that you guys joined us. So with that being said, because you're like ditto, right? I would say this, guys. I think the message here is deep, and hopefully you listen. Don't just scratch the surface, right? There's depth. There's people who care. There's people who can relate. There's people with experience, and there's people who are selfless enough to dedicate time, which can be monetized and never be given back. I never get back the time I spend to caring about others, and I appreciate you two for coming on the show, but building the show. We got to come up with a name. I would say that's your homework assignment. But I also wrote down on this show, please go into the comments. If you got an idea, if you have something that you want to share, and from KJ Studios, it's just always an honor to talk to you guys and continuing to investing in people. Have a great day.